Hello, Winston. How are you today?
I'm good, Rabbi.
And where are you tuning in from?
Yeah, I'm from Indonesia.
Indonesia.
Yeah,
Wow. What time is it in Indonesia now?
it's almost 6 p.m.
6 p.m. How did you find out about us?
Yeah, I follow on Facebook Habat South Africa on Facebook.
Really?
Yeah,
So what is your history? What is your connection to the Jewish community?
yeah. I'm just learning for now.
That's so interesting. What got you interested?
Yeah.
How did you become interested in this? I'm just curious.
Yeah, it's gradually yeah, gradually I more searching about it, more I want to learn about it.
Interesting. Okay. You're very welcome.
Thank you, Rabbi.
So I don't think there are any rabbis in Indonesia, huh?
Yeah, maybe there is, but in secret maybe. Not in public.
What city are you in?
In Jakarta.
Jakarta. That's the capital, no?
Yeah.
Okay. Good to talk to you.
Yeah. Thank you, Rabbi.
Hello, Rabbi.
Okay. Hello, John. Hello, Dennis. I got back from America on Friday.
Hi.
Hello, Dennis.
Hello.
You have a good trip, Rabbi.
Thank God. Thank God.
Good.
I went to the National Jewish Retreat in Atlanta to be one of their speakers.
Oh, lovely. Lovely.
Let me see if closing this curtain helps a bit. Makes it worse, actually. Can you guys see me okay, or must I close my curtains? Hello, Kent.
Hi, Rabbi. How's everyone?
Remember me?
Hello, Ken.
Hi, guys. Oh, good. Yeah, we do remember you, Rabbi.
Okay, so I want to thank Rabbi Darren for standing in for me. And I'm back now until next time, whenever that will be. And Monday is going to be challenging next week and next month because it's Erev Yontif, right?
Yep.
So 1 o'clock on Erev Rosh Hashanah is a challenge. 1 o'clock on Erev Sukkot is a challenge. 1 o'clock on Erev Shmini Atzeres is a challenge. We have 3 challenging times. Okay, but I'm not gonna change it now. I'm gonna hope and pray that I can make it and that you can make it. Otherwise, we'll take it closer to the date. Okay, let's get started. It's 1 o'clock by my count. So yesterday you began the section dealing with the 24 gifts that were given to the Kohanim, to the priestly tribe by the Israelites. And today we begin enumerating them. And we start with Bikurim. Bikurim is the first fruit offerings. Shavuot is called Chag HaBikurim because that's the time that the Bikurim offerings would be begun to be brought. They could have been brought a little bit later as well, as we'll soon learn, but it was from Shavuot. Mitzvahs aseh, it is a positive commandment to bring Bikurim, the first fruits, to the temple while the temple is standing in the Holy Land in Israel. As the verse says, and we read it last week in Parshas Ki Tavo, the first reading was all about Bikurim, but it's also mentioned here, he quotes from the book of Exodus. By rabbinic law, even lands that are bordering Israel, if Jewish people were living in the lands conquered by from Sichon and Og and from Syria, then by rabbinic law, you would bring first fruit offerings from there, but not from the nations of Ammon and Moab and Babylon. Even though they're liable for truma and tithes according to rabbinic decree, they are not obligated for bikurim. Now, you do not bring apples or naartjes or mangoes for bikurim. You only bring the special fruits that Israel is famous for, which are wheat, barley, which are not fruits, but the fruits are the 5 fruits: grapes, figs, pomegranates, olives, and dates. Other fruit is not sanctified, meaning it's not bikurim. Also, number 3 tells us that the bikurim should be brought from the best quality fruit that you can find. Don't bring rubbish fruit. You know, back in Genesis, Cain and Abel, what happened over there? Why did Cain kill Abel? Because they both brought offerings to God, but Cain brought a shvach, poor quality offering, and God received Abel's more happily and in a revealed way, and Cain got jealous, and that's why he killed his brother. So we mustn't bring first fruits from the dates in the mountains or the fruit of the valleys, nor from oil-producing olives that are not of the highest quality, but rather from dates from the valleys and fruit from the mountains. So now you got a lesson in farming that fruits come out nicer when they're in valleys, and dates when they're in the, fruits are better in the mountains and dates are better in the valleys. If he brought inferior quality, they are not consecrated. 4, you don't bring liquids, with the exception of olive oil and wine from grapes. But other things, you shouldn't bring pomegranate juice, for example. Now, you might wonder, let's say a farmer lives far away from Jerusalem. By the time he gets to Jerusalem, his fruits are going to be fraught. They'll be off. So, I forgot to send a reminder. I'm still in America. I forgot to send a reminder to the group. Give me 1 second, please. I'm wondering where everybody is. Sorry. Uno momento, as they say in New York. One second.
We got your reminder, Rabbi.
I just sent it now, but I'm just sending the link. There we go. Okay. Ready to roll. Now, so what about a farmer who lives far from Jerusalem? So he says those who live close to Jerusalem should bring fresh figs and grapes, but people who are distant should bring dried figs and raisins. Did you know that raisins come from grapes? Now you know. Dried figs are very nice. I prefer dried figs to fresh figs personally. That's my choice. So there's nothing wrong with that. But the other fruit, what about the other, what are olives? Olives don't go off so much, do they? Olives, dates, and pomegranates. I don't think those are a problem of going off so much. Number 6. So we said Shavuot. So the first fruit should not be brought before Shavuot. So Shavuot is called Chag HaBikurim, and it is the harvest festival. It's also, Shavuos has many names. Another one of Shavuos' names is Chag HaKatzir, the festival of the harvest. The first fruits of your work. So we see that Shavuot is a time when the first fruits ripen. If you bring it before, it's not acceptable. You have to leave them till Shavuos and then come there. The farmer comes, he makes a whole declaration. There's lots of pomp and ceremony. I think we'll maybe learn about that in the next chapters. But there was a lot. It was a very elaborate parade, a procession when the farmers would come with their baskets of fruit adorned. On Shavuot in our shul, we have the children's Bikurim parade. The children bring baskets of fruits and we give it to charity. And the choir sings that famous Bikurim song, Saleinu al ktefeinu, Rosheinu aturim, Miktzot haaretz banu, Heveinu Bikurim. Okay, I won't sing the whole song for you. I don't get paid to sing, only to teach. So anyway, so we've come from all the corners of the land with our adorned baskets to bring the Bikurim, and there will be a parade and music, and the Kohen would come out to greet the farmer, and he would make a presentation and make a whole declaration, which will probably come up in the following chapters. So 7. The first fruits may not be brought from produce of the present harvest for produce of the previous harvest, or from produce of the previous harvest, you have to keep to the time. Meaning, one should not bring produce that budded before the 15th of Shvat. You know that the first Mishnah in there's a book of Talmud called Rosh Hashanah. And the first Mishnah says there are 4 Rosh Hashanahs, not just one. So in a week's time, in 8 days, we have Rosh Hashanah that we know, Rosh Hashanah, the new year. But there's also the Rosh Hashanah for fruit, for trees. Rosh Hashanah la'ilanot, for trees. Tu B'Shvat. In the Mishnah, there was a dispute between Shammai and Hillel when it is. But we observe the 15th of Shvat. So that counts as the cutoff date, the demarcation point for the year in terms of fruit. So fruit that budded after the 15th of Shvat should not be confused with fruit that budded before the 15th of Shvat. So you have to bring for that year. And the year for fruit goes from the 15th of Shvat to the next year, 15th of Shvat. Not from Rosh Hashanah that we are going to observe next week. Obligation for applied to the produce of partners, even if the 2 people are partners in the farm, the one can say to the other, you bring, and then he can say to the other, you bring, and nobody brings. You're obligated to bring. You have to work it out between you how to do it, but the obligation applies even if the field is owned by partners. What if I have fruit growing in a flower pot on my balcony? As you sometimes see here in South Africa, people have potted trees, especially those who live in flats and don't have a garden, so they plant little things on their porch or something. So if you have produce growing in a flower pot, even if it has a hole in it, so it's actually coming from the ground, which is in the pot, or it grows in a ship, those are not required to bring bikurim. Because it speaks of be'artzam, in their land. So it has to come from fruit which grew on the land, not in a pot plant or on a ship. Number 10, a person should not bring first fruits from the produce that grows in one domain or the produce that grows in another domain. For example, you plant a tree in your field, but it extends into your neighbor's field or into the public domain. Or the trunk of the tree was in his field, but he did it at the end, and there's a public road or a private path between the trunk and the end of the tree, where the fruits are. So he says the first fruits of your land, says the verse in Exodus, which teaches us that the growth of the tree must be from your land. Otherwise, you don't have to bring bikurim if it's growing in someone else's land. If, however, his neighbor gave him permission, then he may bring the first fruits. If the tree was close to the neighbor's boundary or leaned into the neighbor's field, which he shouldn't have planted there in the first place, but he may bring the first fruits and recite the declaration. Sharecroppers, tenant farmers, men of force, meaning people who use brute force to get their way, who compel the owners to sell the land and purchase it for a low price, or robbers, outright robbers, may not bring first fruits. Because the verse says the first fruits of your land, not a land that you stole from someone else. Even if the owner who you took it from despairs of ever recovering his land, which halachically, that would mean it could be acquired by someone else. You know the law, it's in the Gemara Baba Metzia, Hashavas Aveda, laws of returning lost articles. If you are walking down the street and you lose something, and someone finds it. So we were taught as kids, finders, keepers, losers, weepers, right? But that's not what the Torah teaches. Torah teaches if you find something that someone lost, you may very well have an obligation to search to find the one who lost it and return it to him. Or to go to the temple and the 3 pilgrim festivals and announce at a certain spot that you found something. Let's say it was a watch. I found a watch. Whoever lost the watch, come and describe it to me. And if it matches the description of the watch I found, I'll give it to you. But if you find loose cash, for example, on the street, so it says you can keep it. Why? Because there's no way that the one who lost it can prove that it's his. If I lose a watch, I can tell you what the make of the watch is, what kind of strap it is, etc. I can describe it. How am I going to describe cash? Cash is cash. If it's tied up in a bundle or in a brown envelope with a red seal, then I can describe that, fine. But a loose cash lying on the road cannot be described and therefore cannot be proved to be yours. So therefore, whoever finds it, for that, the halacha says finders keepers. Why? The principle is that the one who lost it gives up hope of ever finding it because he knows he cannot prove that it's his. So here too, he says that people who force others to sell them their land at a cheap price because they are powerful, corrupt people, or outright robbers who steal your land. Or today we would call them squatters who are on other people's property and very hard to get them off. I saw a thing, I don't remember if it was from America or from here in the news just the other day. Was it here Or was in America? A woman is homeless. She owns 3 properties, this woman, but she's homeless. Why? Because she can't get the squatters out of her 3 properties. Anyway, so here he says that even if the owner despairs of recovering the land from these robbers, they may still not bring bikurim from that land, which they did not acquire honorably. 13. You buy a tree in a field, okay, a fruit tree in the field, but you didn't buy the land. You only have the tree. The land is not yours. You may not bring the first fruits because he doesn't own the land. And the verse says, Ba'artzecha, in your land. However, if he buys 3 trees, then he does own land, because to go from one tree to the next, there's land in between there. So obviously he owns land. Even if he only acquired the trees officially, it's as if he owns the land. So then he has to bring the first fruit. 14, a person purchases fruit that has been harvested. Excuse me. Person purchases a fruit that has been harvested and purchased the land on which they grew. He should bring the first fruits, because now he possesses both the land and the fruits. So he bought the fruit first, but then he bought the land too. If he sells someone fruit but not land, even if the fruit is still attached to the land, nobody brings the first fruit, not the buyer, not the seller. Seller can't bring them because he doesn't own the fruit. The purchaser can't bring them because he doesn't own the land. The seller buys the fruit back from the purchaser, then he may bring the first fruits because he now owns both the land and its produce. When a person sells his property to a Gentile and later purchases it back from him, he must bring the first fruits according to Torah law. It is not absolved from the mitzvah just because it was purchased by a Gentile. Now, 16, an ashera. Who knows what an ashera is? Who remembers? Unmute yourself and tell me, what is an ashera?
An idolatrous tree.
Thank you very much. Correct. It was a tree that the pagans of Israel would use to worship. And sometimes they would put it next to their temples, and sometimes it would be on its own. If one nullified an Asherah, meaning that the non-Jewish person the pagan who put this Asherah, who made this, planted this Asherah and worshipped it, then nullified it. He canceled it. He said, right, it's not a holy thing anymore. He's using it for his own mundane use. He canceled the so-called sanctity of it. Still, the first fruit should not be brought from its produce if it's a fruit tree. So the first fruits are like the sacrifices of the temple, which should not be brought from such a place. Now, how much bikurim do you have to give? The first fruits, what? The first 1, the first 2, the first 10, the first 1,000? What's the measurement? What's the shear? He says there's no set measure. The rabbis, however, said you should give 1/60th of the crop. So if you have 60 trees, you could take the fruit of the 1 tree, or take some from all of them and work out the arithmetic of 1/60th. But 1/60th would be a minimum. If you want to give more, by all means. In fact, if one desires to set aside his entire crop as first fruits, that's fine too. You want to be a tzaddik and give it all away? Good for you. 18. When a person separated his first fruits and afterwards added to them or adorned them, because I told you before, they presented them in a beautiful pomp and ceremony procession to the Kohen in Jerusalem with very adorned baskets. If you adorned it with fruits, and they're also first fruits, then they're also part of the first fruit offering. When he brought it from Eretz Yisrael. If, however, he brought them from Transjordan, that is the other side of the Jordan, or Syria, they are not like first fruits. Even though they're not considered first fruit, they should only be eaten in a state of ritual purity. No matter where it's from, the first fruit should only be adorned with fruit from the 7 species, which we spoke about earlier. Okay, now the practicalities. How does the farmer identify and distinguish which are the first fruits on the fruit trees in his orchard? So 19 tells us, how should one separate the first fruits? The farmer goes down to his field, he sees a fig tree or a cluster of grapes or pomegranate that has budded. What does he do? How does that song go? Tie a yellow ribbon or something? He ties them with a reed. So he takes something, reed, whatever, to tie it around that little cluster, and he makes it a declaration. And he says, Hare elu bikurim. These here are the first fruits. And once he's made his designation, they are now officially pronounced the first fruits while they're still in the ground. They've just budded. It's not yet ripe. When it becomes ripe, then he will reap them and take them to Jerusalem. So when they ripen and reap, he doesn't have to designate them again. He's already done it. If he didn't designate them before, then he could designate them when he reaps them. God forbid the entire harvest becomes impure. I don't know what happened. If some maybe a corpse fell in the whole vat of fruit. I don't know. He should not designate the impure produce as first fruits. Instead, he should set aside other produce as first fruits in place of the impure produce. It appears to me, says the Rambam, this is he's not saying what it says in the Chumash, he's saying, this is my opinion. It appears to me that if he does not have other produce to separate as first fruits, he should not set them aside to be destroyed, the ones that became impure. Similarly, it appears to me that if the first fruits become impure, he should not use them as kindling for a furnace, which you would do with other grains that became impure, because they are like objects consecrated for the temple. So the question is, what should you do with these fruits that became impure? Let's see if we find something here. No, doesn't tell us what you could do with them, I'm afraid. So it looks like you may have to just let them rot. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm sorry. 20. When a person set aside his first fruits and they rotted away, were taken by others, lost, stolen, or became impure, he's obligated to set aside others in place of them. As the verse states in Exodus, bring to the house of God your Lord. You have to bring it, come what may, which teaches that one is liable to replace them until he brings them to the Temple Mount. Finally, 21, if a person set aside his first fruits to bring to the Jerusalem himself, he should not send them with an agent. So you could theoretically, let's say you can't get away or you can't travel or you hurt your foot, you could send it with an agent on your behalf. But if you did not intend to use an agent in the beginning, you were planning on doing it, then you should not change your mind and then send an agent. If, however, he initially harvested them with the intent of sending them to the temple with an agent, that is permissible. Okay, he's got a quiz here, okay? I'm gonna ask you the quiz. Unmute yourselves and answer the quiz. Which of the following is not from the 7 species? Apples, pomegranates, or wheat?
Apples.
Number
Correct.
1,
Correct.
apple.
Number
May
one.
olive oil be brought as the first fruits? We learned it. What did we say?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Correct.
it can.
You may. Until what point in the year can the first fruits be brought?
Hanukkah.
We said from Shavuot till Hanukkah. Very good. How much should one give for the first fruits? You see 3 options here. It's a bit tricky. It's a bit confusing. Read carefully before you answer.
Number 3.
3.
Very good. Very good. You guys are on the ball today. That's it.
Rabbi,
Yes.
regarding the woman who owns the property with squatters,
Yeah.
it was here somewhere in Melville, I think, or
Really?
something. I know of only one property. She just couldn't get rid of them, and then she tried to sell the property. I think, I don't know what happened after that.
Anyway, that was just an aside. I was giving an example of
Yeah.
people living on their property.
Thanks,
Okay,
you.
ladies and gentlemen, pleasure being back with you again after my trip. And so next week is Erev Rosh Hashanah.
Okay.
I hope.
Nice to have you back, Rabbi. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank- so
Yeah,
I'm-
great to
Good
be
week.
back. Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Rabbi.
Everyone.
But I'm not canceling next week or the weeks after. If I have a problem, I'll let you know in advance. Hope we all see each other. Sei gesund.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye, everybody.